He didn't decide one day that he would avoid women. There was no promise, no rule, no clear moment. It just happened, slowly, almost naturally. When he was younger, he noticed things more than other people seemed to. Expressions, pauses, the slight change in tone when interest faded. He learned early that words mattered less than reactions, and reactions were unpredictable. At first, he tried. He spoke when spoken to, smiled when expected, laughed when the moment required it. But inside, his mind stayed busy. Every interaction became data. What did she mean by that pause? Why did the energy change? Did he say too much or too little? Nothing felt neutral. Psychology often labels men like him as avoidant, but avoidance didn't come first. Awareness did. He noticed that attraction brought expectations. Expectations brought pressure. Pressure brought mistakes, and mistakes stayed. He remembered every awkward silence, every misunderstood sentence, every moment where interest quietly disappeared without explanation. Over time, his brain began to associate women with evaluation, not connection. When he spoke to men, the rules felt simpler, direct, forgiving. When he spoke to women, the rules felt invisible but strict, and invisible rules are exhausting. So his behavior adjusted, not dramatically, subtly. He stopped initiating conversations, stopped extending eye contact, stopped placing himself in situations where interpretation was required. From the outside, it looked like confidence. From the inside, it was calculation. He didn't hate women, he didn't resent them, he didn't blame them, but his nervous system reacted before his logic could intervene. Tension in the chest, shallow breathing, increased self-monitoring. His body learned avoidance faster than his mind could argue against it. Psychologically, this is how avoidance stabilizes itself. No interaction means no rejection, no confusion, no emotional aftermath. The absence of pain becomes proof that distance works, but absence creates something else: silence. He noticed it most at night. Not loneliness in the dramatic sense, but a quiet awareness that life was happening elsewhere. People formed attachments without overthinking. They navigated misunderstandings without internal collapse. They recovered without replaying every word. He observed, but didn't participate. His self-image adjusted accordingly. He stopped seeing himself as someone who connects. He became someone who observes. Observation felt safer. There's a common assumption that men who avoid women lack desire. In reality, desire exists but remains unexpressed, because desire creates vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust in outcomes. He didn't trust outcomes. Past experiences didn't feel dramatic enough to explain this pattern. There was no single trauma to point to, just accumulation. Small moments, subtle dismissals, unanswered messages, shifted interest. Each one minor, together, decisive. Over time, his identity adjusted around the avoidance. He chose routines that required minimal social exposure. He preferred environments where roles were clear. He avoided ambiguity. Ambiguity reminded him of emotional risk. Women noticed his distance. Some interpreted it as arrogance, some as disinterest, some as mystery. Few recognized it as self-regulation. Internally, he didn't feel mysterious. He felt controlled, every reaction filtered, every impulse restrained. The absence of connection wasn't freedom, it was containment. Psychologically, avoidance becomes self-reinforcing. The less he interacts, the less confident he feels interacting. The less confident he feels, the more justified avoidance appears. A closed loop. He aged, but the pattern remained. Opportunities passed quietly. Not rejected, simply never approached. This distinction mattered to him. Rejection implied failure. Avoidance implied choice. But choice became habit, and habit became identity. He didn't sit around wishing for change. He didn't feel broken. He didn't seek explanation. He simply adapted to a life with limited emotional exposure. Stability over intimacy. Predictability over connection. From a psychological perspective, his behavior makes sense. Avoidance reduced cognitive overload. It minimized emotional unpredictability. It preserved internal equilibrium. But it also reduced human contact. Not dramatically, gradually. He existed comfortably on the edge of interaction. Present, but not involved. Aware, but not engaged. Safe, but untouched. This is the psychology of men who avoid women. Not fear in the obvious sense, but a long-term negotiation between sensitivity and self-protection, between desire and restraint, between awareness and withdrawal. And most of the time, no one notices.